Okay, so before I get into how I delayed this poor flight crew, I need to apologize for my outstanding absence. There were some things that had happened in the family, and then my previous laptop just couldn't hold on any longer. While I was working on what was supposed to be the next video, almost all of the animation files were corrupted. And then the laptop stayed at 19% battery life and refused to charge, so I had to boot up a new laptop. Yay! But then it made my drawing tablet utterly useless unless I used a computer docking station to connect an adapter to connect to my drawing tablet to connect to my laptop. Yeah, my desk is too small for that shit. So when I had the money, I bought an iPad, which is also the reason why my style is changing as well. And then finally, I picked up a new hobby that I really enjoy, and I put in a couple of hours of work when I can. Plus, I work full-time, so yay, adulting. I wanted to make an update video for this, but I felt bad because my last video on here was an update video. I didn't want it to seem like I was making an excuse or wasn't trying, and since I don't have a community tab where I can share updates like these, I created a Discord to help share these messages. So if you're interested and want to stay in the loop, there's a link in the description box. Okay, so to explain this story, I have to actually give some exposition that leads to the incident. To start things off, my sister and I were planning a trip with some friends to the East Coast. We're all split up across the country. My sister and I live in SoCal, one friend was in NorCal, another in Arizona, Texas, Illinois, and Connecticut. The plan was for my sister and I to fly over to Chicago, meet up with one of our friends, and then boom, we'd all meet up in Connecticut. I don't remember what time my sister and I left, but it was sometime in the morning. We get inside the terminal, and at some point, I buy myself some Powerade and a bag of pistachios. We didn't get anything to eat meal-wise, or at least I don't think we did, but I knew I was going to need something to drink and munch on at one point or another. The problem with me at the time, and still do sometimes even now, was that I tend to skip breakfast. And when I travel, my appetite becomes non-existent. I don't want to eat or drink anything. And if I want to eat something, it's usually something really small. By the way, this was perfectly fine and normal for me at the time, so I saw nothing wrong with it. It was just how my body worked. We get on the plane and fly somewhere between 3 to 4 hours to Chicago. I can't remember. We meet up with our friend and wait about maybe an hour or two before boarding the next plane. By this time, I had a small portion of my Powerade and like 3 pistachios. Nothing else. You might be seeing where this is going. But this was also something that I felt was normal for me. There have been so many times where I'm simply just not hungry. You know, thinking on it, I also think I just really didn't want to eat anything because I was scared I was going to get an upset stomach. The irony. And add the fact that I also have this fear that I'm going to miss my boarding time because I'm in the bathroom with said upset stomach and I don't hear it over the intercom. I don't know. I'm weird. Anyway, we then board the smallest plane I have ever been on. It was a 2x1 seat configuration with a total of like maybe 15 rows. And as soon as we took off, I started to feel off. Suddenly, I had no energy, my head felt heavier, it felt like I was taking shallow breaths, and I was very sensitive to sound. Like, it seemed like I could hear everything on the plane. I figured I was dehydrated and just took a swig of my Powerade. The flight was like maybe only an hour, give or take, so I thought I could maybe sleep it off, and I think I shut my eyes for like no more than 10 minutes, which felt more like 30. But when I saw how much time was left before our arrival, I kind of just gave up and accepted that I was just gonna have to do... Did you really just throw up? I fucking vomited in the middle of the aisle on the damn plane. I was in so much shock. I don't even think I called for the flight attendant. I think I just stared at the floor and looked around, not knowing what to do. Do I call the flight attendant? Do I tell my sister? Who saw? Should I clean it up? Did I hit anyone? Thankfully, no. Eventually, a flight attendant came over, asked if I was okay, if I wanted some water, and if I had traveled out of the country within the last 14 days. You know, typical stuff like that. I told her that it was most likely due to the fact that I neglected to eat and drink and was running on very little sleep. She later told me that the captain would be flying to the airport as fast as he could, which at this point was somewhere around like 30 minutes. When we started descending, I look out the windows and y'all, the only thing you could see out the windows are police cars, paramedics, a fire truck, and an ambulance. The captain landed the plane in a remote section of the tarmac, and two men in hazmat suits board the plane. I came to my senses real fucking quick. The flight attendant's questions were suddenly making sense. I knew why I was sick, but they had to make sure I didn't have Ebola or something. I quarantined the damn plane, and I have never felt more embarrassed. And it wasn't because I threw up. It was all because I was causing this big scene and causing a huge inconvenience, all because I didn't take better care of my body, and that was completely preventable. After about maybe 20 minutes, they confirmed that there was absolutely nothing to worry about, and we all stepped onto the tarmac and onto some buses that would take us back to the terminal. And I don't blame them, but no one wanted to sit next to me on the bus. When we finally met up with one of our friends, even he knew something happened since there was an announcement over the intercom. They basically said that the plane was delayed due to a sick passenger. Although I was still feeling kind of meh for about half of the trip, which I think was all in my head at this point, I still had a great time. But now, whenever I fly, I force myself to eat something before boarding and try to eat as much as I can if I'm given a meal on the flight, while also grabbing the biggest bottles of water and tea. So, if you're gonna take anything away from this, keep your stomach fed and your body hydrated.